it has so many layers. But when you come here, it's just like a copy of the organic fields of this universe. It's synthetic, and it also has a creator. And you can imagine how this creator calls itself. It calls itself the creator of all life. So who is this creator then? It's an entity, it's a being that calls himself the God of religion.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'm Sonja Van de Reep. I'm from the Netherlands and I'm on Your Superior Self with Trey.
I love it, Sonia. Thank you so much for taking the time again to join me here on the show. I'm excited to dive into the God Matrix a little bit more and what drew you to that concept. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
How
I'm a
have you
little,
been? How have you been since our last conversation on the show?
actually, I'm good. I have more energy than I used to. And with that, I gain more space to collect more insights from within. So it's great.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love your studio. The backdrop is beautiful.
Oh, it's my practice where
Yeah.
I invite my clients to journey.
I love it. Journey, the journey into self. So that's why I brought you back, is to kind of understand a little bit more about how you interpret the self, or how the framework of the God matrix was created, or how or I don't know if we dove into that in the first episode. It's such a blur. Like, I just was in the space of just, pure fascination and enjoying your energy and conversation. So I don't I don't remember if we hit on it or not, but I did want to take time, and I appreciate your time to kind of jump back into that. So, can you give us some context on how or why you were drawn to this philosophy of the God Matrix?
Yeah. Well, everybody has his own journey. And mine started like 4 years ago. I was in a big training for like a year, and I was going to be a higher self facilitator in that journey. And it was in that training that I felt that something was off. And I couldn't point my finger on it, but it felt so big that I realized I had to pause and just ask myself questions from what is this training that I'm following, and who is this woman who is facilitating this training. And she was all about ascending masters and angels and all of that stuff. And I noticed one thing that she did. She Every time I had an experience, she would just ignore me, and she didn't want to give me any room to explain myself what it is that I was experiencing during her meditations or whatever. So from that ignorance, I just felt so small. And I thought, wow, why am I feeling like this? So that's when it happened for me. I just felt like I was waking up from a deep, deep sleep. And I just had to see what was happening there. So it was the part of my journey during that training that I discovered that I was being misled, but I didn't know what was real at that time. So I had to take a deep dive into myself. So it was an invitation to go within instead of experiencing everything like a bliss outside of myself. And it was in in that training that I went to a different path. So I've the best way I can describe it to you is that I was moving from a synthetic reality to an organic reality because it was the reality within me. And it was quite confusing at the time because you're in a training for a year and everybody was doing what she asked us to do. And there I was, being all alone again, like the story of my life. But it was supposed to be like that. It was just like my soul woke me up. And I needed to explore much deeper what it was that I was experiencing.
Is this hypnotherapy training?
No,
No.
no, this was to become a higher self facilitator. And the word explains it already because it's the higher self that's outside of yourself. That's what I was becoming. And it didn't feel right for me. So I went on to the journey inside and I need to discover what it was that I was seeing, feeling, and experiencing in that training. So I guess when I woke up, there was more room to discover, to explore, because my consciousness was being more expand at that time. And that's when I found George Kavaselis. You've heard from him, of him?
Mhm. Yeah, I read his book. Very interesting work. So you had this experience with a facilitator in a class and a course that was over a year, and through her kind of doubting or maybe making your experiences smaller than what they were or insignificant, you had a realization of something. Was it the realization of the matrix, or was it just kind of like an awareness of something didn't feel right? This can't be it. Like there has to be something else going on. Can you explain a little bit more of that intuitive insight?
Yeah, it's both. So I discovered the matrix. I felt the matrix. I felt the ceiling of the matrix, and I there's something inside of me like a fire. I always have a fire inside of me because that is my energy, and I'm just like Captain Picard. I just want to explore space and explore myself. So she asked me the question when we started the training, why are you here? And I said, I have no idea. I just felt like I needed to be here. So that was my answer. And during the training, I just discovered that I needed to feel the difference between the organic spiritual awakening and the synthetic spiritual awakening. I think that's a better way of putting things. Yeah, because she was all about the narratives in the spiritual realm, movement, training. Yeah. So it's both.
Okay. So you found George's literature, you found his book, you read it. And what was your impression at first when you, because I know I had a definite, like a definite response to this, right? And I
Yeah.
won't go into that. That can be a separate episode. But what was your initial response when you read George's book?
Well, I realized that everything I've had done previously, it was a stepping stone. All of it were stepping stones to get to this information. It just blew me away. And I don't know how his information came to me because you cannot find him easily. It's difficult. Maybe nowadays it's more you can find him better, but 4 years ago, no, nobody heard of him. And so there I was in that training, exploring her world and exploring George's world. So it was quite confusing for me. Yeah. But I knew, and I always know that I'm on the right track when I follow my gut feeling, however you want to call it, like intuition, maybe your greater being who is inside of you, who you are, just woke me up. And I read his book. Yes, I did. But it was until I became a multi-dimensional hypnotherapist that I could implement his thoughts, his perspective of things in my clients, in the journeys that they are experiencing. So that's a validation for me that it's true.
Mhm. Did you have any, I guess, exposure, pre-exposure to the Matrix before you had that realization in that lady's class at all?
Yeah, she felt really off. Her energy was like an iceberg. It's so cold. No empathic feelings for her clients, for her students. She wasn't available for questions. When were on a break, she was just didn't lunch with us. She just sat back in her own room, and she wasn't really. We couldn't get to her. No, she wasn't available emotionally. No, spiritually. No, she wasn't there. She was just facilitating her training. Very cold woman. Yeah, she has a lot of followers in the Netherlands.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, did you have any previous exposure to, like, the Matrix theories? Like, have you heard of the Matrix before you had that insight? So, like, when you
No,
had when you had that intuitive hit or, like, realization, that was totally new information for you? Like, you saw this synthetic reality? Maybe, I mean, did you have the words to describe what you were seeing?
no, I didn't. No. Well, I have the capacity to um, feel what is real, and I've always had that inside of me as a little child. So all the agendas, all the masks of people, I can feel through them. But it was with her that I felt that like something was off, but I couldn't give any words to it at that time. No, no.
So, when I hear synthetic overlay, and we can get into that a little bit later. I think we're kind of jumping the gun here with that, because that's a
Mhm.
very deep, concept of George's philosophy. So I think the kind of like baby step this. I think how did this concept of the Matrix, when you had this realization, how did it change your understanding of spirituality today as we know it?
I felt misled. It was a great big deception that I was in all of my life because I gave everything away during all these spiritual experiences that I had in courses and training. And I realized that then that I was giving all my light, all my life, all my power away to beings, entities that are in the synthetic layer, overlayer from the matrix. Yeah. So I discovered it by myself. And I remember that maybe a year before that, I had a question that came from my inner self. What happens when we die? There was a question that I had inside of me, and I gave myself the answer: I won't go to the light. So I validate that question with friends, and they all said, no, you need to go to the light. And I felt so strongly inside, no, that's not the answer for me. But I couldn't find any information at that time to support my feeling. It was so difficult. But I knew that what I was feeling was the truth. And then it really started in the training. So little drops of intuitive information came through during the training, but before also. But I couldn't give any words to it. I was still looking in my outside world for answers from other people, and they didn't have the answer. I needed to explore myself and find out what is true from my perspective. And the perspective that I had were the glasses where I was looking through, and it wasn't real. So it was quite confusing. Yeah,
Well, I think
it's so.
people listening to this, like, it can rock someone's paradigm to think that what
Mhm.
they have worshipped or what they have believed in is could be of a fallacy, right? Like it could be a false world. And I think it's probably a good point to make here of what exactly the God matrix is. So can you, and I know, I when I asked you to explain it, I know it's not your work. I know it's George's work. However, you have your work separate from that. But can you just explain to the best of your ability the framework in which it is the God matrix?
Yeah. Well, I use it in my work. I do, because I only want what's real. So when my client travels, I need to be aware of this universe. I need to be aware of this matrix and where is my client. So I make it my business, Trey. I really do. And I deep dived into this information and I needed to experience it myself before I could um, support my client in the traveling that they do. But first, I need to tell you something else because we can jump into the matrix right now, but we really need to understand where are we. So in order to know where we are, we need to know what this universe is. We are in a universe, and this amazing creator being facilitates his self for me to get to know, to explore, to experience. Same goes for you, same goes for everybody. Everybody who is here in this realm has traveled a long, long journey through this universe. And this is a universe of light, a light based universe, and in all forms of light. So, duality, polarity, everything is there. We need to realize that we, in one point in time, want to be here. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that because most people want to run away and not be here. You know the feeling that you do not want to be here, but it's free will. So if you take a look at this magnificent being as this universe, it's the same as you and me. We're equal. And it's only facilitating our being here because we are creator beings also. And we create life. That is what we do. We have no beginning. We have no end. And before we came into this universe, we are the universe. I'm a universe, maybe I'm multiple universe. So are you. So you need to realize what this universe is first before you take a deep dive into the matrix. And I can see this universe as it's very big. It is enormous. And when we come in, we have to make ourselves smaller in energy just to fit in. But once we're in, this creator being who calls this self his universe of light, he asks you the question, do you want to move on? And if you do, you need to be here all the way. There's no shortcut. You just need to travel through all dimensions, all realities, and experiencing everything that I have to offer. So it is a creator being, but so am I. And in the heart of this universe, you are the soul. And from the soul, you split up into spirit and consciousness, and you end up in the eco construct. But before you do that, because your soul wants to have an incarnation on earth, it splits up in two different elements, like spirit and consciousness. And you can see spirit like love, the real love, and consciousness like knowledge. So then you go through the big void. He calls it the great void. And that allows you to have an incarnation as a human being. But it's at that point when you go through the great void, just to paint your picture, is from the fifth dimension. There's a great void. You fall down into the fourth dimension. And then you end up in the matrix, in the grand cosmic arena, with your ego construct as an incarnated soul. So that's a long journey. That's a big journey. But before you go through the great void, you experience all dimensions, all realities, and you stay there. A part of you stays there. So your presentation in this universe, as we speak, in all dimensions, you are there.
Sounds very technical.
Yeah, it is, but it's such a big plan. But you have to understand that you've never been created. You have no beginning, you have no end, and you've always existed. And that's important to realize when you take a deep dive into the matrix. Because when you go through the great void, it's like a veil. And you forgot everything. Because you wanted to experience what it's like to be in extreme duality and extreme polarity. That's why you made a choice to go to this side of the universe. And I don't like to talk about it in a hierarchy way. I like to talk about it from within, we move to the outside. So we're not at the bottom of this universe. No, we are on the outside of this universe. And the outside of this universe is the grand cosmic arena. It's a multi-dimensional. It has so many layers in this grand cosmic arena. And there is a creator also. So that's why I told you you were never created. You've always been there. You're infinite being, a creator being. You create life. But when you come here, it's just like a copy of the organic fields of this universe. It's synthetic. It's a copy. And it also has a creator. And you can imagine how this creator calls itself. It calls itself the creator of all life. It claims to be the creator of all life. So it has created me. But I know I was never created. I was always here. I have no beginning, no end. So who is this creator then?
Who is it?
Yeah, it's an entity, it's a being that calls himself the God of religion.
So some people could hear that, and I guarantee there's going to be a reaction to that.
Yeah, I hope so. You can tell I'm a little bit nervous because the energy is so big. And I know I told you it doesn't like us to talk about this energy. Because if you are the creator of all life and you claim to be my creator, and I know that I've never been created, so I ask the question, who are you then? And why do people give all their power to you in worship, prayers? But I'm not here to disrespect anybody. I don't want to do that. But in order to smash all the paradigms and tell my truth from the perspective that I see things, I have to.
Yeah, I think you respect people's beliefs because we know how strong they can be in creating our reality, right? And so I think and everyone's on their own path. I think anyone who's out there kind of like, this is the way you must follow. You're just creating a new religion, in my opinion. You're just creating something else that is, you're coercing people to essentially believe in. And but then again, what is that? What are you strengthening? What are you participating in? And so I think the one aspect that I really get behind in your message is like, you need to go within to find your answers. You really need to do the inner work. I have had a couple of experiences just through meditation. You know, I'm a person that has been raised in religion and the Methodist faith, and then converting to Catholicism, which is crazy because like Methodism and Catholicism are Christianity. I don't know why I had to convert, because it's still the same. It's under the same umbrella. But um, I've always wanted, or I've had this instinct of like worshiping something. Like that's the nature of religion, is to worship something outside of you. And I go in meditations in the morning, and there's always this like quiet, still voice that's like, never bow down to anything or anyone ever. Like, don't ever give your power away. And at first, like, there's a natural reaction to that, like, to what? Like, that's blasphemy, right? Like, to not worship something that you consider a god, or the oneness, or whomever. And then the voice continues on and saying that, like, we talk about Christ, right? And I know your thoughts on that, but they're all essentially your brethren, or your sisters, right? Like, they are your equals, and you have the same abilities to achieve the same states of consciousness. However, you give it your power away when you worship something or bow down to something. You're literally giving all of that away to something else outside of yourself. So I balk at that naturally, just because of my belief systems that I've grown up with. That is a program that I am currently running, right, in my mind. And I think a lot of people have the same reaction when they hear like philosophy that suggests that the God of their childhood is actually some type of creator being that is essentially forcing them to worship them in a way that gives their power away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. But we have to realize, Trey, that it's part of the deal. We all created this matrix because we are creator beings. And like I said before, we really wanted to explore the extreme sides of duality. And the only way you can do that is in this construct of the cosmic arena, the matrix. And it's natural and logic for me that if you have a synthetic field, a copy of what this universe is, then there has to be an entity or a being that is claiming to be the creator of all life. It makes sense because the creator of this universe is also there, but he is not claiming to be your creator. He sees you as equal. But I want to explain you something else because maybe it gives more clarity then, okay? When you came through this void as an incarnated soul, of the incarnated soul, you split up in spirit and consciousness just to fit in this reality. We have an ego construct, and this ego construct is specifically for this reality, for this incarnation to be here. In other realities, you have other ego constructs. You have to believe that. You have to feel that. Because we're not the only one with egos. Gods have egos. All gods have egos. And they live in other realities. But when you came through the great void and you split up, you forgot who you really are. But what you really did is you sort of cut off from your life force, your own life force. You forgot. So it's natural that you think there's something outside of yourself that is giving you this life energy. By worshiping it, it gives you a good feeling. It gives you like a bliss feeling, and it gives you life energy. So In this construct, like the matrix, it's like a parasite. We are all parasites because we eat animals, we eat plants to get life force. So the only way you can, and that's the insight that I had a couple of days ago. What if we are so far cut off from our own life force that we need to be fed from some kind of energy? So this God matrix, this God religion, he does the same because it's part of this construct. Makes sense. But we are exploring consciousness only in this reality right now because that is where the human collective is right now. We only talk about consciousness, but we never talk about spirit. So we're eager to get knowledge and wisdom by expanding our consciousness and go in this big exploration from what consciousness is. But we really need to go to the middle and explore spirit also, love. So what if you bring the two of them together again, spirit and consciousness? What if you can connect with yourself and your own life force again because you connect directly to your own soul again? You understand what I'm saying? It's big.
Well, help people understand because there's a lot of talk about consciousness and
Mhm.
spirituality. And when I hear consciousness, I automatically think of like the more scientific ideals to spirituality, right? I always, consciousness, spirituality to me sometimes don't seem like they go together. So, can you, what, in your, what is your idea? What is consciousness, and then what is spirituality or spirit? I should say. What is spirit and what is consciousness?
Yeah, if you just see spirit as love, as the universal love, and consciousness as like the mind consciousness. We both need them in this reality, but we're only moving to the side of consciousness. So that's a big spiritual narrative right there. And everybody in this reality right now is looking for consciousness and exploring consciousness. That's the outer corner of the extreme duality. It can go both ways. You can go in the outer corner of consciousness looking for the extreme duality, but you also have the opportunity to move to the spirit side, love, and extreme duality experience on that side. But we as a human collective are, as I see it, only on the side of consciousness, exploring that side. So we're not there yet. We have
So, consciousness is the external world that you create, or it is created, the world that I observe.
no, it's here. Consciousness is the mind consciousness. It's part of the construct in this matrix. But we forgot about what it's like to feel real love. You need to understand how the spiritual narrative works because it's all programmed. We're all looking for consciousness right now. Why?
So, what is your thought? What is the difference between consciousness and awareness?
Yeah, that's a big question because when I Googled it, in the Netherlands, we only have one word for that. But I can explain it like this. You can be with your awareness at several places at the same time. I can talk to you right now, but I can also be with my awareness and my grocery list, making my grocery list. Okay. So you can be with your, where are you with your awareness? Where are you? That's the big question. Are you in the moment right here, right now, having this conversation with you? Or am I with my awareness somewhere else? So I can be also in another reality if I like, if I would like to. But the consciousness, yeah, that's a big journey to go. I'm not sure. I have no answer to that.
Sure.
No, I know it's part of the deal.
Well, how do you navigate daily life, right? Like having this information and um, your truth, your knowings. How do you walk through life? Like, how does it make it better, or how does it allow you to expand as awareness?
Trey, I needed to let go everything that I thought was real and what I knew. So I had to really everything that I learned, I had to let go. So my daily life now is really about feeling, am I in a program or am I being programmed? Am I conditioned? Do I have convictions? And I explore my consciousness every time. Where am I? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Is it from me or is it from the outside world? But I find it like a funny thing because it's like a big game all day, every day. And the Matrix just swoops you away every time in another narrative. Like yesterday, I knew we had a podcast today, and my mind was telling me, the program was telling me, you're not good enough. You do not have all the answers. So why do not cancel the podcast? And I really wanted to do that. But it wasn't from within me, it was something outside of myself telling me what to do. So that's how my daily life looks like. Doubt the doubt every time. And try to have this big realization that you are a creator being. And what does that mean? What does it mean? I'm not Sonja, that's my persona. But what am I? And who am I, really? So for me, it helps to connect with my mother planet. I told you also, she is real. And that's my start point with every question that I have. Just connect with my mother planet. And from there on, I go inwards.
Mother planet meaning Earth or some other system?
Yeah, nee, your mother planet, Earth.
You never know nowadays, right? Like you got to ask that question. Are you talking? Some people. Are you talking about Earth? Are you talking about some other
I'm
system?
talking about Earth because every reality needs a planet to have an incarnation on. No, it's your mother planet. She facilitates everything for you. And we forgot about her. So she brings me back into the here and now and in this reality. It's real.
I wonder if the ego could be like, just listening to parts of your thought system. Like, I wonder if the ego could be like a small version of the matrix. Like you talk about the voices, the persona, right? Like the limiting beliefs that you can have because of the story that you're living, right? Like maybe that's a smaller version of the matrix, to where it enables you to pursue certain things, aspects of your creativeness, of your beingness, because it wants to keep you small inside that story, right? Like it could be a smaller version of a larger matrix. And so I have been, everybody's like, oh, you can't kill the ego. It's meant for a purpose. And it's like, okay, I get it. But how much of the ego is created like suffering for me, like anxiety for me?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand both aspects of the argument of like, all right, you are a human being with this story, this persona, this identification that you are Trey. You've navigated through this world. Like God wants to know itself, right? Like the universe wants to know itself through Trey's experiences. And I get that. And it's like, oh, well, don't kill ego, because it's like, it's your distinction from everything else. It's the singular wave of the ocean. And it's like, I don't know if the ego is really the singularity of the ocean. I think it's, one, and here I am again getting analytical and logical about something that is very esoteric. But I think the ego for me, if I really define it, is the storyline that you're living, the character. And when I think about uniqueness of the, to the ocean, I'm thinking of my individual awareness and what I'm experiencing in my reality, not the story, but the awareness and the reaction and navigation in this place. That to me is the singularity of the wave. That is not the ego. And so, tying it up and making a point, I think the ego can be a smaller matrix, in just my opinion, to where it limits you from really fully realizing yourself. Now, I have been studying a lot of, and just having personal insights and meditation, but like the surrendering of the ego, like the needs, the wants, the what I should have or should be doing because of social programming and socialization, influence through social media or storylines or ancestral like influence. I think surrendering to that part of myself that is a larger creator being. If you say creator being, and I call it my higher self, right? Like that's just, and it's just lexicon to me. It's not even, it's semantics. It's not even, it's just whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to make a little bit more. I want to give you more information, because if the higher self is the deeper self, the inner self for me, and it's right above the great void. So it's like I'm like a little bit of schizophrenic, I think, because I have so many parts, but I'm multidimensional. But if you look at it hierarchy way, then yeah, you have the incarnated soul with an ego construct and a persona, because that's who you think you are. And then you have the deeper self, and then you have the soul. And when you came here, before you came, you were a creator being. So that's also who you are. That's a lot of layers, a lot of different things that you are.
Sure. I mean,
It's
it's very complex. There's a lot of complexity here. I mean,
yeah,
even like the ancient Stoics, I don't even say Stoics, but like the Platonist, Plato even said that this was not a true reality, that this place is not true reality. It is a carbon copy of the truer reality.
yeah,
This isn't, how can this be reality when everything decays? Like our bodies decay, everything decays, nothing is permanent. So it can't be the true reality, the true version of something. And the Neoplatonists, they actually had a hierarchy. Plotinus had a, if that's how you say his name, had an actual hierarchy of God, like the God, the Godhead, right? And he never
mhm,
would describe it because you can't describe it. There's no words that would describe it, but there was an overflow effect of this infinite power of beingness that created the nous, or whatever. And then it was like all the way down to the individual soul, and then all the way back down to like an individual atom. And they're all interconnected. They flow back and forth. Because I could never understand how in Plato, I don't know if you're familiar with Plato's allegory of the cave, like how the individual got out of the cave. Like it talks about in the cave, like if the prisoner in the cave in the reality was taken out and placed upon them, like the mountain top of this, of this space, of this story, and was actually able to see the true light. But I never understood how the prisoner got out. Like it wasn't on his own. It was someone got him out and placed him upon this mountain. And then listening to Plotinus and understanding his theory a little bit more, because of the interconnectivity of the Godhead all the way down to the atom, there's this two-way pullingness to back to, when they say, you know, when I hear I am the alpha and omega, like I am the beginning and the end, but then, I'm thinking, I don't think about it in terms of, from the start I was this, and I'll be in the end. I think of it as like that interconnectedness to where there's an automatic pull, like from your higher self, from that nous, to like realize oneself. Like there's this inner self, the true self, the higher self, in which I recognize it, that is wanting me to remember, that is pulling me back in, that knows that, um, to search for something, you automatically, innately, even though you can't remember it, know what it feels like to find it, or else why would you ever search for anything? You would innately already know what it feels like to achieve that, or else you would never search. So
Mm.
again, I'm totally lost in this rant right now, but I think I think there is a connectedness that is happening, that is pulling us, right? Like spiritual wise, because I don't have any other term for it, to where the higher self wants me to know thyself and to know
Yeah,
what that is. And so there's an
yeah,
innate pull that is happening. And I think what's so interesting to me about your theory, it's like it's up to the individual player
yeah,
here to find that. And the
yeah,
more that you place emphasis on the externals, which is kind of contradictory to what we're saying right now, because we're actually outside of someone and they're listening to this podcast, and they're listening to the concepts, and they're like, well, this is outside of me. How do I know this is truth? Like, how do you speak to those people?
yeah. Well, I always say the biggest bullshit meter is in your heart, not in your mind. We think and we see, we feel everything with our mind, but we need to go back in, and then you go to the heart, to the soul. So that is your biggest bullshit meter, and you have to turn it on. I invite everybody to turn it on. But we cannot win this battle in this big game with our minds. It's not possible. You cannot think your way out of this. You have to feel. So the mind plays tricks on you all the time because it makes you feel like you cannot connect with your heart soul essence. How many people I've met, they say, I cannot feel anything. I cannot make the connection. I said, that's not true. The mind wants you to believe that you cannot make a connection. So it's there. We've never been cut off. That's a big lie. We always stayed in connection with our higher self, our deeper self, with our soul. But we are so, we lost our way, Trey. We really did in this cosmic arena, in this matrix. And we gave all of our powers away. And we need to move back in to realize how big we are, who you are. Know thyself. There it begins. And you better start this journey because it's happening. And
Hmm.
if you're not aware of what is happening and what is happening in the matrix, I'm not saying you're lost. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to realize where you're at. Where are you on your journey? Where is it that you're at? Are you still full in the matrix? Are you getting your energy from the matrix? Is that your supply? You're like a battery. And I explained to you in the other podcast that I'm so tired because I'm spiritual, emotional, tired. My journey has been so long in this universe that I'm really going home. I'm done with this. I'm really done with it. And I'm not angry. No, because I created this matrix myself. I'm part of it. But I woke up and I realized that this reality is not real for me. It's created and it's using my creator abilities to create this reality. Because everything they throw at me, like information and programming and convictions, become the lenses that I look through. And that's why I create my reality. So you need to wake up. And you
So you
need to
did you did mention that. You did mention that you felt like low energy vibes, like lower vitality. And
Mhm.
so is that because of the work that you're doing, that you're are you still giving your energy away? Like, and if you are, like, how do you take that back?
Well, I can feel that I'm not fully plugged into the matrix anymore. But it doesn't give me any energy back also because I'm not consuming its energy anymore. But I need to connect more with my own life force to get real energy without bliss experience. So I explained to you why you split yourself into conscious and spirit, and we're only at the corner of consciousness, exploring that corner, but we need to move more to spirit side, to love side. And if you combine those two together again, then you connect automatically with your own life force. That's how I see it right now. We need to
Mhm.
give ourselves the energy. And if you're plugged into the matrix and it gives you all these beautiful experiences, it gives you energy. But once you realize you have to plug out and it's not providing you with energy anymore, you're tired, of course, because I'm not in that bliss state all day, every day. I'm not. Full, pure, raw matrix experience, I'm not plugged in. So I'm tired. But where is my energy? I need to make a balance again between spirit and consciousness to get access to my own life force. I know it's big.
So we've always been taught, like, especially when you're finding your truth, like you said, the heart is the bullshit meter, right? And then follow your bliss. Like, I mean, that's been repeated over I mean, many conversations that I've had with people about, finding your path or your mission. So you're saying essentially when we obey the construct or the matrix, what it will give us energy back. We will
Yeah,
feel the bliss back because it wants us to continue to do those things in order to feed it. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, correct. Yeah,
So
spot
you're on the path when you're feeling shitty. Like, is that
on. Yeah,
is that
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. And when you can see what the matrix really is and the ways you give your power away all the time, then you can see where your energy is going. Because, okay, Trey, for example, when I'm in a situation and I'm really astounded and I say, oh my God, boom, there goes your energy directly to that entity. You're not aware of it, but you need to be aware of what you're saying and where do you give your energy away. And why is it that every time you're in a difficult experience in your life, you pray to God, you go on your knees, you say, oh please God, help me, give me insight and give me knowledge to go through this experience. I've been there, I did it, and I'm not doing it anymore. So I got my energy from connecting with God. He gave me the big energy in life to continue on my journey because I gave him all my trust, all my love, and he loved me. I've been there. But now I'm not doing that anymore. And I noticed when I unplugged from all those narratives, all those programs, my energy went down the drain. I'm not making it up. It's my own experience.
Hmm.
So you need to let go of everything you thought was real. Look, Trey, I prayed all my life. I did, especially as a child. And I went to bed and I go to sleep and I was praying and then I fall asleep and I woke up and I went, oh, sorry, sorry. I was in the middle of a prayer and I continued because I felt the need to do that because it was my fault. I fell asleep. But I needed to thank my Lord my God, for everything that he did for me that day. And I always go like, thank you for this, thank you for that, thank you for this, thank you for everything. And it took me a really long time that I realized, hey, I'm still saying thank you, God. And I went like, what am I saying? Because I already knew what I was doing. But it's so in the program. I was so programmed that I still, maybe like a few years ago, I still said, thank you, God. It's just without thinking. Gewoon just do it. Thank you, God. And I was like, wow, I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it.
So do you believe in, how do I say this? How do I word this? So you don't believe in like your awareness or like your higher self had a creator?
No.
So what is that your knowing, or is that from George's teachings? Because
I, I know. I really know. I
so
did my
if you
fair share.
so if you're, and I've heard, and I'm just curious, like if you
Mm,
are a universe, like I've heard you say this on Biba's episode of like you are a universe. So, my intellect is like really jumping in here. I'm trying to like really kind of just be curious and open minded. And it's like, all right, if I'm aware, like if I'm right now aware of this conversation that I'm speaking, that I am having a connection with you,
mm.
like, isn't there a beginning at some point? Like, isn't there some type of formation of that awareness? Like, if I am a universe, let's not call it God, but if I am a creator being, how did I form into that creator being, if that makes sense? Was I just,
Yeah,
how is it
no,
that you come to be?
I understand that you have that question. But as you go along on your journey into the deep dive, it takes a little while to really grasp what it means to be a creator being, that you've always been there. Because in this reality, we born, we die, we age, everything has an end, but you're an infinite being in an ending reality. You really need to understand, feel what it's like to be that creator being. And if you grasp that, then you're there. But it's so difficult because the mind is like the interface between your feeling and what's real. It's difficult to grasp, I understand, but Trey, you have always been there. And it's really tired to hear that, because I'm tired and I really want to die at some point in my life. But that's my human vessel, my human thinking, my human feeling that wants that. It wants it all to end. But when I'm out of this reality, out of this big duality, this extreme duality, and I come home to my essence, then I can feel it fully, that I have always been there. It's difficult with the mind, but you need to feel with your heart. We like to grasp it with the mind, but it's I know, and that's how my daily life looks like. Every day I'm getting more and more into that feeling that I'm a creator being. I created my own reality with the people that I meet, the experience that I have, good or bad. Mostly bad, of course, because otherwise there's no big learning curve, but it's all in co-creation. And we need to realize in this reality, it is what it is. But we're infinite. We're so big. And every time I meet a client that can make that journey through this universe, out of this universe, they realize who they are. And that is
So
my big,
explain that. What do they describe when they say they get out of, like, if you get out of the God matrix, what is that experience?
yeah, they're saying I have no beginning, I have no end, no limitations. I'm so big. I'm so big. It scares me. It scares the shit out of me. And I say, okay, can you expand more and more and more and more? And then they say, okay, now I'm lack of trust. I need to make myself smaller again. I say, okay, make yourself smaller again, and then feel what it's like to be such a big being. And
So
it's
what's the
happening.
difference between that experience and death, right? Like when someone goes back to their soul essence versus someone passing from this world.
You asking what it feels like to
Well, what's the
experience.
yeah, well, like so I hear and have conversations about near death experiences, right?
Mhm.
And what have you experienced as far as your clients talking about the death, like the death of the body and then what they experience? And how is that different than someone who goes and experience their soul essence? You know what I mean?
I
Because it
think that.
seems like they're two different things, right?
Mhm. I never had an experience when client told me that, well, that is dying, okay, but then I let them look back at their lives and have they lived their lives the way they supposed to. But when they're out of the body, they have the feeling that they go up. They're lifting themselves up, but they do not have a body anymore. So it's the soul who decides in a session where they go next for information. So I cannot explain to you because I have no answer to your question. It's a
Mhm.
very difficult question because my clients do not travel like that. They have death experience, yes, but not out of the body, like you're saying. How do you call it? What? How did you call it?
A
Near
near
death.
death yeah, near
Yeah,
death experience. They call them NDEs here. Like
yeah. No,
Dr. Raymond Moody did a lot of
yeah, I know,
research
I
on
know
that.
him. Yeah, no, they do not have these experience because it's not relevant. They go out of the body. That's the same, and they go into another reality. They go to explore space, however you want to call it, the galaxy, the cosmos, and they move to another experience they need to see or experience in a session. Do
How many
you
times
do
have
you
you
have
been here? Yeah, yeah. No, how many times have you been here?
on Earth?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
You
why do you keep coming back?
No, I'm this is my last journey. This is my last one because Trey, I think and I believe I've been it all. I've been everything this universe has to offer. I've been bad, I've been good, and I'm bringing it all home. I really am because that's part of the tiredness too. It has been a really long journey, and it's now all integrating in me, and all the wisdom and all the knowledge that I had from all my lives in this universe, it's coming home. So this is my last journey. I'm sure of it. I can feel it. Yeah. Yeah.
Now is that is that coming from the persona? Like how do you know like that at the soul level that's truth?
You know, Trey, believe me, when you feel it and you ask yourself these big questions for like a couple of years now, and you can come to this realization of what is real, and you can let go of everything like I did. I'm not saying I'm the best, eh? Because people can give me comments about that. Oh, she has a big ego. No, I do not have a big ego. I'm just feeling it. And I have all the knowledge, all the wisdom I gained in all this universe. So this is who I am. And I know, I really know. And everybody who says otherwise, I don't care because I feel it so deep inside of me. Like the big questions that I had, where do you go when you die? I do not go to the light. I gave myself that answer. I turn inwards. So all that knowledge and wisdom is in me. I can give myself these big answers on my big questions. And that's how I help my clients also move through their session. All the knowledge and wisdom is in them.
Can you find beauty here? Like do you find beauty at all here?
I had to find my own beauty first. And then you come to the concept of love, spirit. What is love? Is beauty. But you have to love yourself first to acknowledge what beauty is. And then when you acknowledge yourself and you love yourself and you look at this reality, at this planet, in nature, you can find it everywhere. I'm a part of nature and nature is part of me. So it's all connected. But first, you have to acknowledge yourself to see the beauty. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I think when I hear The Matrix, right? Again, and Biba laughs every time because she's like, "It's Trey's trigger word," and it does it 100%. It triggers the shit out of me. Um, but I there is just so many parts of everyone's story that holds truth to it. You know, like I have had recent. This is like the third time I'm saying this on this podcast where I've had a dream and it was almost a nightmare where I've had like, you know, entities coming towards me. And I had this awareness of like, you need to, and I probably said this on the other one, but like, you need to love that because it is a part of yourself. And it was like a realization of like, holy crap, like, yeah, these are just aspects of me in this dream. And it's like, the more, you know, if this, you know, this reality is a mirror of like what is inside of me is reflected directly back to me, then those dark aspects, like am I waking reality? Am I not, you know, how am I being towards those people? You know, those like if I'm creating that, like how am I towards Sonya or how am I towards Biba or how am I towards Tommy or how am I towards my wife and my children and my dog? And the more loving that I can be, the more love that will receive. So I don't believe that I am this body. I think it is temporary. It's a temporary vessel for me to explore this world and have experience and to know thyself more and more intimately and to express more as love. And the more that I can do those things, the more that I receive those things. It's the law of reciprocity that I truly believe in, the cause and effect. Like the more that I put out into the world, the more I receive. If I were to live by the sword, I would die by the sword. Essentially, I would, you know, I have that firsthand experience of being in a lot of fights growing up and being mad and angry and experiencing that directly into my reality and having that identity as a victim of like I'm a direct result of you know this effect. Like it's not fair. Like this is unfair. Like life, you know, why does life hate me so much? You know, why am I not
Mm.
receiving the things? You know, and
Yeah.
when I changed my perspective of it's really funny. It's super funny, and I apologize to the audience members because they want to hear more from you than me. But um,
It's also about you.
yeah, it is right.
Mhm.
The more like there's this group of guys that I know, and it's really hard to get them to open up, and so I become angry sometimes with them because like men, most men in this society, like we don't talk about our feelings. And so there's a friend of mine who is experiencing some suffering. And my first response is to like, why get mad and be like, you know, I send you these texts, I give you, you know, these opportunities for you to share your experience with me when you're suffering. Why don't you open yourself up to me? Like, why
Mm.
don't you give me an opportunity to help you? And I was just speaking to a friend and I was like, well, where is it in my life where I'm not asking for help? Like, why is
Mm.
it showing
Oh,
to me in this way?
yeah.
So, you know, that's how I've come to realize my reality is a direct reflection of my innate world. So there is a part of me that is asking for help that I'm not acknowledging that. I'm not asking for help. So it's
This
coming up
is,
in
yeah, but this is co-creation. So your friend is in co-creation with you in this experience.
So
He's
is my friend just an aspect of me? Like, is Sonya
no
just an aspect of me, or is she a separate entity?
separate. Yeah. But in the co-creation, you have a relation with your friend, and you have an experience, like you said, it just showed you that you never ask for help. And he's showing you that. That's co-creation. Our podcast, like we are doing now in this time, in this place, in this reality, that's co-creation. We knew this was going to happen. We agreed that to that level. So that's co-creation. He helps you to remember that part of you that you have to acknowledge or develop or have an experience in. Like you want to do it all by yourself, never ask for help. That's a program, probably.
Oh, it
So
is
he's
100%.
showing you. Yeah, but this is how it works. And I just wanted to say something. I'm not sure why, because there was something you were telling me in your story. But this universe has the capacity to confront you with who you are. So all your shadow sides, it confronts you with who you are. So you have to stay open to be confronted with yourself all the time, all parts of you. So when you encounter an entity, because that's what you were saying, like all parts of you,
Yeah, in the
all
dream. Yeah.
shadow. Yeah.
So when you earlier you said that your energy is low and you're experiencing a lot of, I guess, conflict in your life. I don't know if people or what they are. Is that the universe showing you or confronting you with aspects of yourself?
Yes. And I use the word themes, not in teams, but THEMS. Then you know what I mean? It's not a word in your country? Yeah.
I think I do.
Okay. Processes,
Yep,
experiences.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
Mm.
I choose several experiences to have in my life as Sonja. So all the difficulties that I encountered, yeah, it's all part of that deal with my soul in co-creation with the military, with the Navy, with my husband, with my child, with everybody, with my father especially, and especially the Navy, of course, for almost 27 years. But it was a big, big battle. But it was a battle within myself. Yeah, it was my battle just to see clearly what was happening and what I needed to experience. And what did I gain from that experience? I did. I did it all. I made closure on everything. And that's the big key, to make closure on everything you experience without judgment, because you cannot have any judgment with anybody, on everybody. It's not possible, because it's all in that co-creation. You needed to experience everything to complete it, to make closure, and to get to know yourself better and better all the time, every day. So no more victim, no more drama. Just snap out of it and just be real. Take your responsibility, I always say. It's your responsibility. You created this and you wanted to experience something with all the people in that experience without harming them, without judgment. And just say thank you for that big experience, because you showed me a little dark side of myself. That's what you did. So, yeah.
Are you grateful for those experiences?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I can see so clearly now. I can. You know, Trey, I will share this with you. Nobody said goodbye to me after 27 years in the Navy. No email, no card, no flowers, no nothing. Okay? How do you cope with that? just like you've never been there. You've vanished like a ghost. I had to give myself what I needed instead of wanting it from my outside world, like a thank you for joining, thank you for your service. And I'm grateful for that experience because this is where I am right now, living my life. And I fully feel what it means to be authentic and
Yeah.
just be happy.
Well, just thinking, my automatic reaction to that is mostly, if you're thinking about the services, I think predominantly male operated, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think men necessarily know how to, like, I'm sure there has to be men out there that appreciated your presence there, right? But I know from my past experiences, we don't know how to say, like, I appreciate you. Like, I don't know how to tell you that I appreciate all the things that you have done for me. Like, I don't know how to express my love towards you without it being like a physical attraction, like related, like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I platonically, like, love another person, even men, without the stigmas, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm learning. And so when I hear that, because it happens in my industry as well, like there are people that retire after 40 some years of service, and like you barely get any type of accommodation for that,
Mm-hmm.
because it kind of reflects, how do I say this? It reflects the inability or the need of that person in your life. Like it reflects almost like I always say it's like almost a death almost in your life, because
Mm-hmm.
you'll never see that person ever again. Right. So how do you show appreciation, gratitude, and love for that person? Because you're more than likely you'll never see them again. They'll retire and they'll go somewhere, and unless you're on social media, which I'm really not. I mean, I'm on Instagram, but I think, and I'm not speaking to your. I don't know the men that you worked with. I don't know, I'm not really familiar with the country that you're from. Um, as far as like if it's related exactly the way that it is here in the United States with men, but it could be totally different cultures. But I know primarily here, men have a hard time of really expressing our feelings towards someone, especially when it comes to other men and women who like leave in the profession. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is, yeah, there's definitely sometimes like a watch that's given, if depending on the person, or like a little party. But there's so many different restrictions now in corporate that you can't do certain things or whatever. And so
Yeah.
I just think, as men, and probably women too, just because
Yeah.
you're raised in that type of society, that it's really tough to like
Yeah.
show
But
that appreciation.
it is tough, and especially in this reality when we have this big ego construct, like this is my big me, and I'm not sure how to show me your love or your gratitude towards what your service has been like. But it's in a deeper level. You have to really see what was happening there. I needed to see that because it's a pattern that showed itself throughout my career at the Navy. No, nobody saw me, nobody complimented me, nobody said goodbye to me, blah, 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 blah. So it was presenting itself on another level. And how did I deal with that? That's the experience on a very deep level. And with my mind, I can hear everything you're saying. I do. But we need to see what's really happening. And if you hold it against another, then you will carry it all your life. And that's not how it's meant to be. So I can be very angry about it, but I'm not, because we talked about gratitude, and I'm so grateful for that experience because that was the full closure for me. How did I cope? How did I deal with that experience? Just a kick under the butt, and you're out like you've never been here. That's correct. It feels like a different life. And it needed to end like that. It really did. So, in a deeper level, Trey, what is happening then? You need to see it.
Hmm.
I'm not talking to you, but we all need to see what is happening. Yeah.
I think you're talking to all of us, right? How does
Yeah.
how does it feed off us, right? Like, how does the
Yeah. It feeds of
simulation
us.
feeds off us?
It does. Because if I wanted to stay in that moment when I am the victim, then I feel terrible. And all the energy, all the anger that I feel towards the Navy, I will carry it in my heart. So it feeds off me. It does. Because all of my anger and my frustration and my tears, nobody sees me. Yeah, you're giving it all away. Because there's like a little wound in there. It triggers me then all the time. But I did full closure on that experience. So there's no wound there anymore. There's nothing that triggers me anymore. It tries. Oh, it really tries. The matrix tries. But then you get stuck in a little loop. And that's what we also need to realize. Did you make full closure on your experience? Or are you stuck in a loop that makes you think you didn't do enough work on that little wound and that
Hmm.
trigger?
I feel like the body's a feedback loop almost. Like it's
Yeah, that's the bullshit meter.
yeah.
Also,
I had a really good question and I totally forgot.
oh,
Don't
that's
you
a
hate when
shame.
that happens? Like,
I hate it. That's the matrix also. It swoops it all away. You can gain it back.
I've always had a question about like the mind, right? Like the mind and memory, and like why is it that we don't remember? You know what I mean? Like why is it like so? What I think is the mind, but
What
it's
do
I
you
don't have
don't
any, I don't have any memory of that. You know,
of what?
of the higher self or of the
Oh,
true nature of my being, right? Like,
but I explained it to you. You went through the great void and you split up in spirit and consciousness just to fit in that ego construct in this reality to live an incarnation for the extreme experience of duality. You compressed in this density to experience big, big extreme duality and polarity and to feel disconnected from your higher self. That is the big experience. Know thyself, turn inwards to go outwards. It's all about remembering who you really are. That is the big end game.
so why is there such a difference between the mind and the heart then?
The mind is under control. It's a mind matrix. It's like an interface in this reality also, just like the ego construct. But you have to divine what is what. And you do not have to have a headache about it, but you have to realize that the mind is in the brain. It's like a little interface in your brain. And if you really want to know what the mind does, you need to listen who is talking to you all the time, every day. It's never supporting you. It's never providing you with hard information like, you're a good looking guy, Trey. You did well today. Wow, I'm so proud of you. No, because your heart would say that. But your ego, your mind will say, Trey, this was a very terrible podcast. And you talked all the time. Moo, 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 moo. No, but really, that is the mind. So the mind is something you can divine from outside yourself. It comes from the outside in, and your heart comes from in out. But you need to, you said your body is feeling, and it's a big bullshit meter, your body is feeling everything. So you have to ask yourself the question, where do I feel it? I ask my clients all the time, where do you feel it? This information, where does it come from? Comes it from outside inside or from inside outside? And they say, oh, it always comes from outside of myself. Oh, wow, that's the mind.
So everything that comes from within you, do you recognize that as like your like truth, like as fact?
Yeah. And otherwise, I ask the question, who are you? And why are you talking to me? Show yourself.
Can you give me an
And
example of that? Right, like so
yeah,
for an example, right? Like in meditations, how do you discern between like I would say aggressive thoughts and then like true thoughts?
true thoughts can never be aggressive thoughts, in my opinion. It's not supporting you, it's putting you down. It's making you give your energy away to something because you're angry or something. That's not you. I will give you an example from who and what the mind is, how it works for me. You know, the music industry is on a big fire right now, right? All the actors, Hollywood, the movie, singers, everybody with child trafficking and abuse, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So Hollywood is under attack. So what's happening with me is that I hear music in my head all day, every day, even songs I haven't heard from years in my head, booming in my head. That's the mind. And I know if I sing along, if I go along with that music that's presenting itself from the outside in my mind, my energy goes straight to that entity. And I called out that entity one time. I was so angry about it because I woke up in the middle of the night. I had to go to the bathroom. And there it was again. Boom, a song in my head. And I said, what the show yourself. And I drew a line from my heart to the other end of that where the music is coming from. And Trey, believe me or not, but the entity showed itself. And I was like, there was a big entity, but it showed itself. So it showed its true face.
Like in your
So
mind's eye or in your reality?
no, boom, right there in my reality. Yeah. And I
Like
I was
how much of this has actually showed up in your reality as opposed to mind's eye?
come again.
So like you talk about this entity that was playing this music in your mind
Mhm.
coming into your physical, like seeing it physically, like I'm seeing my hand right now
Yeah, that's
and
how
showing
I
itself.
experienced it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Just
finish the story. So you see the
mhm.
entity, then what
Yeah, and then
happens?
it kijk, it's like an invisible enemy, you know, the mind and the entity that's behind it. But you have to bring a line to what is presenting itself. And I say, make yourself visible. That's what I did, becoming angry and saying, now I'm done. And it presented itself because then I knew what I was dealing with. Because all this time I never saw what I was dealing with. And then it presented itself and I said, oh, there you are. So I see you. Now I know who you are. Yeah. And it was real. And that's a life sucker, you know, all the energy goes to that entity. I know how it works.
You know what my next question is going to be.
No, surprise me.
Who is the entity?
Yeah. Well, what I saw, it was only the head of the entity. It didn't give me his name, if that's your question. It didn't. But it was a really demonic creature with really mean, big red eyes. And all was black. Only thing I could see were the eyes. And I never saw that being in my life. I never did. And I knew I didn't created it. I just called it out from my heart soul essence, you know, from my big energy, from the light source that I am. I'm so much bigger. Trey, we are so big. They're so terrified of us. If we only knew who we really are. That's why they keep us under control.
How do you control your fear in that situation to dissolve that connection?
I have no fear. Not anymore. Because I've been on my journey. And every day, a little bit more, I realize that I'm that creator being. I exist beyond this universe. I've never been created. That's how it works. You really have to feel what it's like, not just words. Feel it, and it grows stronger every day. Every day. They're
When
terrified.
you grow that strength and that and being more of a greater being, can you
Mm.
manipulate this reality for what you want?
But that's not who we are. We do not manipulate. We do. That's the ego.
Well, I shouldn't say
You
manipulate.
can,
I
yeah,
guess
but
my question is like, do you, because you know who you are, do you still want to experience certain events in this world? Like certain, I guess not certain events, but like, what do you want to do? I guess is my question. Like, do you still have goals that you want to achieve? Like,
yeah.
are you just now just because you know who you are, you talk about death, or is now the goal just to exist until that point? Or do you still have goals that you want to achieve, but knowing what or who those goals are actually coming from?
I gave myself some room and space to just be for like a year now. And I think about a few days ago when I had that big insight about spirit and consciousness, and we had to bring them back together to connect with our life force again. That's when it hit me. I said, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm writing a book and it's almost finished. So that is there's big information in that book just to how you move through this reality, through life, through this universe, and get back to yourself and what you encounter on the way. So that's some goal, and I feel that stronger, growing stronger every day. It need to get out, and I postponed it because I didn't feel it. But since a couple of days, it's back. I'm back.
It's back, baby.
I'm back. Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah. Watch out.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Um, how did you and really quickly, like because my mind is going there. How did you dissolve that connection with that entity, that demonic little thing?
Well, it's still here. I can tell you, it's still here. But I acknowledge his existence, and I know George has something he called phase out. So you call out the entity or your iPhone or whatever you want to phase out with, and you never give them permission to mess with your reality again. But I didn't do that because I want to observe what my mind is doing. And every time it presents itself, it's like 100 times a day, I become a tree. I really do. It's something I'm discovering what it's like to have no thoughts, no feelings. And when you go into the music, I see a tree and I'm there. With my heart, with my consciousness, I'm there. And the music stops. I know it's silly, but that works for me. So I'm exploring a little bit what it's like to get the music out of my mind. I want to know what it's like when I'm in control. Yeah. So I'm not phasing out just yet. Yeah.
I love it, Sonia.
Yeah. Trey.
We really had a great conversation. This was like pretty powerful.
Yeah. And really, it's not my intention to harm anybody with the perspective that I have, but I'm inviting everybody to take a deep dive in what is real. You have to do it yourself and not take my word for it, but just explore yourself.
I'm glad you didn't cancel this podcast.
Yeah, it was fun. I
Oh,
really like your energy.
Yeah, I love your
Yeah,
intensity for sure. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. Um, Thank you for living your truth.
Thank you for giving me the space to do that on your platform also. I know you see me. I know you do. I know.
Mm.
Yeah, and I see you too with my heart.